This is Truthful Manipulation, where truth is the truth and reality is made real and clear to understand. I'm Dave Kelsey, and I'm here today with my co-host, H. Daniel Mujahid. In this week's episode of Truthful Manipulation, I did something that some people will find outrageous and some people won't. But this last week, I said to ChatGPT, what would you do if you were Satan in today's world? And it came back and it said, the answer to that is, or the question should be, if evil wanted to quietly ruin as many lives as possible today, would it be called Playbook 2025? Well, the first thing that it says that it would attack is it says it would attack the truth. And Daniel, the question that it says, if I were Satan, I wouldn't bother making everyone believe one big obvious lie. I'd flood the world with so much information that nobody can tell what's true. Make truth feel like a matter of taste, not reality. Your truth, my truth, who's to say? Turn news and social media into outrage machines so people share based on emotion, not accuracy, and reward people who lie skillfully and punish the ones who tell uncomfortable truths. If truth becomes fuzzy, everything else becomes easier to corrupt. Holy shit, Daniel. You hear what that says?
I've been listening to you, and I think that there is an important point here that what we're seeing, for example, they call it Project 2025. And then, you have a presider who says, well, he doesn't know anything about it. But then over this past 10 months, if you look at the playbook or the Project 2025 book, and you look at what we've experienced as Americans in this country, event-wise,
Hold on, Daniel. Bullshit. Tell me he doesn't know what it is, because number 2 on the list is turn disagreement into hatred. I'd go after relationships in community. And I'd do that I'd make politics, race, faith, and cultural identity war zones instead of things we discussed in good faith.
I'm in agreement with you. What we're saying here is that those things that disrupt the quality of life for us as an individual, as a family, etc., those things are not being done accidentally. And if you perceive it as being coincidental, you're missing what is going on right in your own faces right now today in the real world.
Well, this is the reality that young people need to understand today, because this is your generation that it's affecting the most. The next thing it says that it do is it push algorithms that show you the most extreme versions of the other side. I'd whisper in people's ear, they're not just wrong, they're evil. And also, you're not just right, you're better. The goal wouldn't be
there's a lot of good insight here you bring up. I'm reminded of passages that come out of the holy book that is called Quran, that talks about the whisperers, and we fail to realize the damage that is done by whisperers who are whispering evil or information that they call factual that nobody has checked and is not factual. And the damage, it has a resounding effect on future activities, the way we see each other and events. So yes, to that point, Dave, go right ahead.
Listen, the goal wouldn't be to make everybody violent, just cold, suspicious, and unteachable.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's America.
This number 3 would be, I'd hollow out identity and purpose. I'd try to make you forget who you really are. I'd reduce your identity to what you own, how you look, and what you produce. I'd tie your worth to metrics like followers, income, grades, body fat percentage. And I'd push two equal opposite lies. Yes, you're nothing, it's hopeless. Why try? And you're the center of the universe and everyone else is in your way. Either way, you're too stuck in shame or ego to love anybody well. I've got one of my daughters said to me, because I said, what's going on in today's society? And she goes, people are now of the attitude that they're the center of the universe and everybody else is just playing a supporting role in their movie. And that sort of describes how people tend to treat each other today. They treat each other like they're the star and everybody else is just a supporting character in an act instead of everybody being equal. The fourth thing I'd do is I'd numb people instead of converting them. I wouldn't try to turn everyone into a cartoon villain. I'd do something more subtle. I'd make addiction easy. Scrolling, gambling, shopping, junk food, substances. I'd turn every free moment into a micro hit of dopamine, so quiet feels unbearable. I'd sell self-care that's really just escape, not healing. I'd make people so tired, so overstimulated and distracted that they say, I'll deal with my character, my relationships, my faith, my family later.
Dave.
Hold on, Daniel. Hold on. You don't need people to choose evil directly if you can keep them too numb to choose anything meaningful.
I was going to say to you, so what you're describing, if you took this mindset on, are you suggesting that you would be able to give an order to kill everyone and then walk out of the room before it's completely done?
The answer to that is yes. And you continue to do it so that people are numb from the fact that you're actually murdering people and calling it justified. But there's no homicide that's justifiable. You do understand what I just said, Daniel? There's no homicide that's justifiable. You can make people numb, but you can't make them not understand what reality is and integrity is deep down inside. Because the fifth thing you're going to do is, hold on, it falls right into here. You're going to corrupt the systems and call it just business. Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to ask you. Are we witnessing in America a conversion of what we had as values and moving towards a more perfect union to moving towards a more perfect corruption?
Well, think about this. You corrupt systems and call it just business. You reward leaders who look good on camera but lack integrity. That sound like the last week? Actually, the last several months. You normalize. Everyone fudges the numbers. That's just how the game's played. The economy's doing great. Prices are down. Everything's down. You're all doing fine. Does that sound familiar? You make whistleblowers, you make whistleblowers look crazy, bitter, and disloyal. It's not about what's right, what's wrong, what's integrity, what's morally correct. It's about you make your whistleblowers look crazy, bitter, and disloyal. And then you make people feel like nothing can change, so they shrug at corruption instead of resisting it. If systems train people that decency loses and manipulation wins, evil scales automatically.
Of course, yes.
Okay. And
Indeed.
then we go on to number 6. It says, I'd twist religion and spirituality. I wouldn't tell them stop believing. I'd turn religion into tribal identity and power, not humility and service. And I'd push leaders who are charming but unaccountable.
Mm.
I'd
This
amplify
is problematic.
I'd amplify every scandal so outsiders say, see, it's all a sham. And I'd get believers focused on being right instead of being loving or honest. The trick is to make spiritual language a mask instead of a mirror. Think about that, Daniel.
Mhm.
Spirituality was supposed to be about a mirror, about self-reflection, about what you can do to better the human race. And now the trick is to make spiritual language a mask instead of a mirror. And isn't that what we see from the spiritual leaders today? They all have on these masks, and none of them look in the mirror. The rules are for thee, not me. Isn't that how they feel?
I think in many cases, that is what we're witnessing, especially what gets put on television. And I think in those cases where we have men and women of honor and distinction and integrity, as you used earlier, that is a part of the cover up. They don't, if they can't make it to the TV, if they can't make it to the places where people can see and hear and touch and feel them, then they don't exist. So this idea of making the good spirit of America invisible, the good American mind, the good American person, the good American neighbor invisible is part of this idea about the invisible man which plagues our society today. And we will remain invisible as long as we remain complicit, knowing this evil that is being done, and instead settling for or justifying it as something that just has to be. We have to be American, and to be American is to resist bullshit.
Well, 7 and 8 are probably the ones that are affecting America the most today, even though the others are affecting. 7 is, I'd undermine families and kids quietly. I wouldn't need some dramatic anti-family campaign. I'd make parents exhausted, distracted, so that the path of least resistance is screens. Make real conversations about sex, substances, integrity, and the online world so awkward that parents avoid them. Surround kids with models of success that are rich, famous, and miserable, and make it feel normal for everyone to be physically together but mentally elsewhere. You don't have to destroy families in one blow. You just slowly weaken the bonds. And I can tell you this,
Dave, you were
Daniel, I
talking to
saw
me.
something. Oh, I'm going to go into that right
Yes.
now. I saw something in the
Okay.
last couple of days. I took my
Mhm.
granddaughter to a swimming class. There's probably 25 adults in this swim class. And the second that swim class started, every single adult that was in the viewing area took their cell phone out, and for the next 30 minutes while their kid was in that swim class, went into a world of their own and spent 30 minutes being connected but being distracted and not in the real world or in the moment. And that's where we're silently weakening the bonds of the family. We do that, and that is going to continue to weaken things. And 8 goes right along with 7, and that's I'd hijack time and intent and attention. Finally, I'd go after your schedule. Think about this, folks. I'd fill your calendar so that people are always busy but strangely empty. I'd make genuine rest feel like laziness and constant grind feel virtuous. Eliminate silence, and we'd fall into part of this. Always a podcast, TV, music, or scrolling in the background. Make long form thinking, books, deep conversations, prayer, reflection, too hard after a long day. If people never pause, they'll never notice what they're becoming. And I see this scrolling in the background as one of the things that's tearing society apart quietly. And it's quietly distorting the family. And it's quietly distorting your personal life balance because people gravitate towards that phone. I asked one of the people I know the other day, they have a brother that's programming AI right now and actually writing an AI, not program, but an actual AI intelligence. He's training it. So I said to him, how do you program, or ask your brother, how do you program ethics and integrity into the computer? And he said today, because I asked him this a couple of weeks ago, and he came back and said today that he'd asked his brother that question, and his brother's answer was the person that's doing the programming of the computer has to train it to learn integrity and ethics. And once again, how do you do that if the person, and I'm not saying in this instance that this person is like this, but I'm saying, do we trust the individuals that are writing this language because we know the programs are ultimately complicit, at least for the time being, to the people that are doing the programming? And if they program that thing so that it doesn't have any integrity or ethics because they had neither, the world's in trouble. And now the government wants to take all of the constraints off of AI. Can you see this going a wrong direction? I mean, we've got a government that's lying to us anyway. We're down in the Caribbean right now, sinking boats. Daniel, you talked about it a little bit earlier. We're murdering people, and we're saying that it's for drugs that are coming into the U.S. when the stark reality is the drugs that come through Venezuela aren't meant to come to the U.S. anyway. That's a main line to mainland Europe. Has nothing to do with the U.S. But since we've got a presider that is hell-bent on making gasoline and petroleum engines the thing of now and the future, don't you think it's funny that Venezuela has more oil reserves than what the Middle East does? Didn't we do this shit once already? They lied to us about Vietnam, and we went in there. We lost a bunch of people, had shit to do with politics, had everything to do with we wanted the oil that laid under that country. And make no bones, that's what this is all about in Venezuela. It's about putting somebody in control that we can puppet dictate to them what they're going to do and allow us access to the oil that we don't have any right to. You do understand that, folks. We don't have any right to that. You just can't walk into somebody's sovereign country and steal their resources because you want them. That's the type things the Russians do. That's not what we do as Americans, or that's not what we used to do as Americans. I'm not sure what we call the America we live in today. Daniel, do you have any final wise words for people this week?
Yeah, I think we should address what we need to do, but I think before that, an interesting, insightful moment for me came when you were discussing sitting down to dinner with your grandchildren, and one of them, I think she's 6 years old or thereabouts, she made a comment that, "Hey, well, we're really having a dinner the way families used to do," or something to that extent.
The
And I think
comment
that
was
that
the comment was actually, we're having dinner like a real family.
yeah, I think that is very insightful when we talk about the need for us as Americans to look at the quality of when we're together. If we sit down at a dinner table and we've got four different conversations going online with four different people and we're not talking to each other, we're there physically together, we're not together spiritually, we're not together mentally, we're not together in terms of those ingredients that allows family to grow and optimize and develop to be all they can be. And that is something we do have control of. And I would like to use that as a pivot to have you, Dave, speak to us a little bit about those things that we can do as a result of this Playbook 2025 being played right out in the open on us in America.
Well, first thing that we have to do is you have to guard the truth, but we shouldn't have to tell people that you need to check to make sure that what you're spreading is the truth. And secondly, we need to humanize people we disagree with. If you disagree with somebody today, instead of making them out to be some bad person, why don't you ask, what's the most charitable explanation for why they think like that? Have a few relationships that cross your unusual lines. That means go out and talk to people that you normally wouldn't have a conversation with. The U.S. is the great nation it is because we came from all over. We came from all over. We became a melting pot. We didn't become some white racist bigot place that they're trying to turn us into today. That's not what the vast majority of Americans are, and young males. You don't have to be like that to be appreciated. If you want to be appreciated, you can't figure out how to do it, get a hold of us at truthfulmanipulation@gmail.com. We'll have personal conversations with you and help you find ways that will make you feel like the important person that you are. But you got to protect your attention. You got to set boundaries with screens, intentional time with no devices. Reclaim your long frame thinking, reading, have actual conversations. Once again, talk to whoever's around you, have actual conversations, have meaning dialogue, learn about them. You'll find out that you have more in common than you have apart. And then you have to practice small, stubborn integrity. Don't fudge the numbers. Don't exaggerate the story. Don't laugh along when you shouldn't. Choose the honest, slightly costly path on purpose. And invest in a few people deeply. Family, close friends, kids, mentees, whoever's around you. Talk openly about manipulation, temptation, shortcuts, and character. And if you're spiritual, of any faith, treat faith as a way to become more truthful, humble, and loving, not a badge that says, we're the good guys. Remember, Religion is supposed to be a mirror, not a mask. I'll say that one more time. Religion is supposed to be a mirror, not a mask. And with that, that's this week's episode of Truthful Manipulation. Please get a hold of us and comment on today's show at truthfulmanipulation@gmail.com. Look out for our stuff on Instagram. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe at truthfulmanipulation.com. Pick up a copy of our book, Truthful Manipulation. Available on Amazon worldwide. Have a good week, and thank you for listening.